Back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, Bethesda Game Studios had the industry in a chokehold. Games like Oblivion and Skyrim captured the fantasy ARPG market by storm, and on the other end of the spectrum lies the Fallout games, a post-apocalyptic series set in the distant future. Originally, Fallout came from developer Interplay Entertainment, where the first two games as well as various spin-offs were made. After some financial troubles put Interplay in a bad position, the IP was sold to Bethesda, and in 2008, Fallout 3 was born. Funny enough, Fallout 3 caught my eye when I was about 9 years old walking through a 7-Eleven with my mom. For those who remember, back in the day, 7-Eleven used to be pretty cool. On the backside shelves at most locations, you could buy games, movies, and even toys. I would always look out of curiosity around that section to scout for new interesting stuff to play and watch. One day while walking through that section, I saw for the first time the iconic cover art of Fallout 3. Immediately my curiosity was sparked, but it wasn't until a year later when I would pick up the game used at GameStop after giving New Vegas a try but not really vibing with it. I'm not sure whether it was the story, atmosphere, maybe a little bit of both, but something back then clicked for me and I immediately fell in love with this game. It had such a different vibe than New Vegas, and for whatever reason, it just felt so much more personal. Yo, what's up guys, it's Chris over at Breezy's Gaming Corner, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over my thoughts and feelings about Fallout 3 as somebody who's been repeatedly playing this game for a little over 15 years. Shit, I'm old. Anyways, it became one of my favorite RPGs, maybe even one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm over the moon to be talking about it with you guys today. And I do want to add a quick disclaimer that due to the age of this game, there is going to be some spoilers within this video. If you have not played the game yet, just skip the story segment as that is where a bulk of the spoilers will be. Timestamps are listed below. As always, if you like today's video, be sure to drop a like as it greatly helps the channel out a ton. And if you're into lore videos and occasional reviews of various RPGs, consider subscribing. I post every Friday and I'd love to have you guys here. With that being said, let's answer the question of why Fallout 3 is one of the best RPGs of all time. Starting with the story, I gotta say, I really don't care what anybody has to say. I love the story for this game. Is it perfect? Hell no, but what game is? In my opinion, this game's story is overhated on many levels. For starters, I love the intro to this game. You start as a baby and you get to watch yourself grow up inside Vault 101 over the course of about an hour real-world time. After a dramatic exit from the vault, you're thrown into the Capital Wasteland with what to this day is one of the most iconic walkout moments in BGS's entire catalog. Essentially, you're on a quest to find your dad after he abruptly leaves the vault you guys have been living in your entire life, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake.
It's your dad. He's left the vault. My father thinks Jonas helped him escape. So he had his men. My God, they killed him. They just beat him and wouldn't stop.
After wandering around the wasteland looking for answers, you find that your father's been trapped inside a virtual world ran by a mysterious sadistic scientist named Dr. Braun. Once locating him, he reveals that research for his experiment known as Project Purity has come to a head, and with proper supplies and help, the Capital Wasteland could have access to fresh water again. But things are never as simple as they seem, as the Enclave comes in to mess things up. In the end, your dad sacrifices himself for the good of the wasteland in order to thwart the Enclave's plan. I'm not going to go too much more into the depth of the story, but the scale of this quest is just so grandiose, and it feels like your actions could affect the lives of millions of people around the wasteland. I really don't dislike a single main quest of this game, with my favorite being Tranquility Lane. There's just so many different options to handle the situation, and it's just super cool playing in a pre-war setting and being given the ability to kind of just do whatever you want in this small neighborhood. Although if I had to make one complaint, it would be that there's really not that many main quests. There's about 16 in total, and none of them are really that long, but the quality, in my opinion, is really great. I know some people have complaints about the writing, but all of that is subjective. I never had a big issue with the writing of this game. I also didn't dissect the story all that deep, as the main thing that shines in this game is not the main story, it's the open world and the side content. This is what really grabbed me and got its hooks into me. To this day, I feel like the Capital Wasteland is one of my favorite video game worlds to explore. It's not the greatest ever made, because in my opinion, that spot is reserved for Night City of Cyberpunk 2077, but it's still densely packed with things to see and do. Whether it's finding a group of vampires camping out in a metro station, helping a boy escape his town that was ransacked by overgrown fire ants, or helping a talking tree with roots to pass Fallout games unalive himself, the Capital Wasteland rarely disappoints. Every location on the map has either loot, a quest, or some meaningful environmental storytelling to show. A most notable example of this for me would be this unmarked quest where you find two unassuming houses. After talking to the families of these homes, it ends up being revealed that they're cannibals, and if you make your way into one of their basements, you can spot where they prep their meals. All of this is missable by just walking past the houses and not engaging with the NPCs. The Brotherhood of Steel also returns in this game, and as always, they're pretty badass. And just like in every other Fallout game, you can even find a crashed UFO with alien bodies and an alien blaster that you can loot. What's different about this title, though, is Bethesda built an entire DLC around this called Mothership Zeta. It's one of my favorite DLCs BGS has ever put out, but we'll talk about that more in a few moments. This game has many cool things to see, and it's hard to even keep count at times. From a beached aircraft carrier turned into a city, to a town built around a live nuclear bomb, to an underground utopia filled with ghouls, this game is just a gift that keeps on giving. I love me some Fallout New Vegas, but the open world, atmosphere, and just sheer density of locations puts this game easily ahead of it in that regard. Having a great open world and side content can only take you so far though. If your leveling mechanics and gameplay suck, nobody will want to explore the world that you've built. Fortunately for this game, that's not an issue. The gunplay may be flawed, but it's got some really good leveling and mechanics. Let's get a little deeper into that. I want to start by saying that yes, I know the gunplay in this game is not the greatest. It could be made a little better with PC mods for iron sights that make it similar to New Vegas, but for console fans, the vanilla version of this game is not the best shooting experience that you will have. You'll likely end up relying on VATS, this game's auto-targeting system, in order to actually hit the parts of the enemy that you want. After years of playing this game, I feel good enough at it to where I don't really need VATS to be lethal, but I do remember when I first started playing this game, I could not make my shots land for shit, and I honestly didn't really like it. But this isn't a first-person shooter, this is an ARPG with heavy FPS elements, and in that respect, this game is borderline perfection. Every level you're given skill points to increase certain stats like speech, lockpicking, hacking, and that type of stuff. Skill checks are frequent in this game, so when you finally get a skill maxed out and you can now open any safe or get out of any dialogue encounter, it feels massively rewarding and meaningful. On top of this, every 2 levels you get to choose a new perk, which offers a variety of gameplay buffs and tweaks. These range from being super useful to maybe not as useful but absolutely hilarious to experience. One that comes to mind to me is Bloody Mess. Most of your time in this game, though, will not be spent with its combat or character building system. It's going to be spent walking vast distances across the wasteland or engaging in dialogue. It helps that, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the open world is tremendous. I remember my first time playing this game when I stumbled across Paradise Falls. I noticed that huge Bob's Big Boy looking statue from halfway across the map, and I thought,
oh my god! What is that?
Next thing I know, I'm being recruited by slavers operating out of there to go around and put explosive collars on random targets around the wasteland. What's great too is you don't have to help them. The choice, like most things in this game, is up to the player. If you want, you can free the slaves and massacre the slavers, or you can join their ranks and become a respected member of their circle, or you can just sneak in there, free the slaves, and do it peacefully. The choice is truly up to you. The same is true with many more locations in this game. Another cool thing to note is the karma system. While it's not as intricate as Fallout New Vegas' faction system, it's still nice that it's here. Essentially, you get karma graded off a scale of good and evil. It's a common complaint in this game that this system's very black and white, while in New Vegas you can't necessarily be either, but rather the system works off of the reputation you have with certain factions. Obviously, New Vegas has the better system, but this game laid the groundwork for that to even exist. Some companions won't even rock with you if your karma is too bad or too good, adding real-world consequences for your actions.
No offense, kid, but you're not exactly the type I'm used to running with. I've heard about you. a little goody two-shoes out of the vault. I don't think our styles would really mesh. Nah, it ain't so bad here. I got some good memories, but that's all I got. No sense in ruining the good ones, you know?
Really, I'd say everything offered here besides its melee combat and first-person shooting is extremely solid. If you're here for a traditional FPS game though, you're gonna be disappointed. Even going from 76, this might feel rough, because while I'm not a fan of Fallout 76 or really Fallout 4, I do have to give credit where credit is due by saying those games have the best gunplay in the entire series, so returning to this will feel a little archaic if that's what you're looking for. But as I said earlier in this video, that is not the sole focus of this game, it's the role-playing elements which, in my opinion, Fallout 76 and 4 really botched in favor of just being your standard run-of-the-mill first-person shooter. So the sound design in this game is a little bit of a mixed bag.
I was brought here by his will. I heard his calling, and I followed.
In terms of dialogue, not all is created equal. You got some heavyweights in here like Liam Neeson playing your dad,
All right, come on. Let's go see if your little friend Amata wants to play.
but some less important characters and NPCs don't sound nearly as good or believable.
Last thing I remember before blacking out, something knocking my friend into the stuff.
It's understandable when you think about budget constraints and stuff like that, but it is noticeable at times. The guns, however, all sound really unique and pack a pretty heavy punch. To be honest, the gun sounds in this game carry the combat, because without the guns sounding as punchy as they do, the combat in this game, which already isn't great, would be damn near painful to play. On the music side of things though, I'm not gonna play any examples due to YouTube's copyright system, but it's filled with old world songs from the 50s and 60s, and honestly, it's such a vibe and it works really well with the aesthetic of the game. I love walking through the wasteland bumping GNR for hours while making my mark across the lands. When the music isn't blaring though, you're greeted with some of the greatest ambience in gaming. From the howling wind to the sound of gunfights happening in the distance, the dark, gloomy soundtrack that lightly plays in the background, it all adds to a feeling that very few games can nail properly. It adds a tremendous amount of atmosphere to a game that, quite frankly, already has it bleeding out of almost every facet of its existence. The atmosphere alone is what made me prefer Fallout 3 to New Vegas for years. And while that sentiment has changed as of recently, I still believe, at least in terms of atmosphere, Fallout 3 is undefeated. So on to performance, and just a little warning, I'm about to get a little hot here, and it's not even about this game in particular, because the performance that I experienced here was actually pretty rock solid. But what I want to ask is, why the fuck does this game and Fallout New Vegas run like absolute butter, but Fallout 4 is so fucking bad that it made me sick? That's a true story too. I'm not even joking. A few months back, I was recording some Fallout 4 footage to right my wrong of never playing Far Harbor and maybe make a video about it. The first thing I noticed was how fucking bad the ultra-wide support for that game was. BGS literally just stretched the image. This, coupled with the god-awful frame rate, made this nauseating to play at times, but it gets fucking worse. Right after they dropped the Anniversary Edition update, I got on to record a little more. I was in the Boston area when the game booted up to this awful stretching effect. I immediately got motion sick, got up to go get some water, and on my way back to the room, I threw up all over the floor. I literally collapsed to the ground because I was so dizzy, and I threw up everywhere. This is the only game in my life that has done this to me, so unfortunately I'm not going to be covering Fallout 4 on this channel until Bethesda gets their whole shit together because this is ridiculous. I don't know who at Bethesda is responsible for this, but as of lately, their QA department is an absolute joke. They botched the Skyrim release on the Switch too. They fucked up the next-gen update last year and just left it for an entire year. And then they finally release an anniversary update, which is paid, by the way. And it's so bad that it is literally sickening. Literally sickening. Fuck Bethesda for that. Alright. Anyways, I'm sorry about that rant that was completely off topic, but I just had to get that off my chest because it really pissed me off. But yeah, at least for this game and Fallout New Vegas, the performance is rock solid whether you're playing on the Xbox Series X or the PC. There's just no complaints I really have, and it's great to see that these games are still playable all the way in 2026. When it comes to the DLCs, this is easily the most consistent package of the mainline games in my opinion, and I know that's probably a hot take because New Vegas exists, but hear me out. Aside from Operation Anchorage, every DLC in this game hits. That's not to say New Vegas's DLC doesn't hit as well, it's just that for whatever reason, when I play New Vegas, I'm just less inclined to start the DLCs in the first place. The only one I genuinely want to do every playthrough is Old World Blues. Fallout 3 is a different story though. When I start this game, I genuinely look forward to the later half of my playthrough when I'm ready to do the DLCs. Specifically for Point Lookout and Mothership Zeta. Both are vastly different, but they satisfy me in different ways. Point Lookout is where I go when I want a large new area to explore with interesting side quests and deep lore. It's got arguably better atmosphere than the base game, which is saying a lot because I love the atmosphere of the base game. I would honestly go to argue that Point Lookout is probably one of the best expansions that Bethesda has put out for a Fallout game, and I haven't played Far Harbor, but I've heard a lot of people say that that is their best one, but since I haven't played it, I can't really speak on it. Mothership Zeta, on the other hand, is a more contained experience, but it is so unapologetically cool. Aliens have always been in the Fallout games even back to the original, but never before and never after have we been able to go on board an alien ship and fight aliens on their own turf. And don't even get me started on the ending where you literally fire a death laser at the Earth. It's great stuff. Now the pit is pretty cool, and when I play it, I always have a good time, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't call to me like the other DLCs do. The atmosphere in this one is just so oppressive and everything's just really depressing, and I know that's the point of this DLC, but for reasons I can't explain, it just doesn't land with me, even though I know objectively it's a very quality DLC. Broken Steel is pretty much just a short expansion to the ending of the base game that allows you to continue playing after the game ends, something that definitely should have been included in the base game, but Bethesda never changes. They just sell it to you instead as an add-on. I'm glad it's here, and it's not bad at all, and at this point in time, getting the Game of the Year edition, it's really a non-issue. But the story just wasn't super noteworthy to me, and like I said, I feel like genuinely this should have just been included in the package from the beginning. Operation Anchorage was just boring, and I didn't even like the environment it took place in. I literally only do this DLC because it gives you the best armor in the game, and even then I sometimes skip it. I do want to note though that I just found out from this Reddit post here that if you start Operation Anchorage at an early level, you get power armor training from the VR simulation. This is something I never knew even after years of playing because I always start the DLCs after I've completed the main story and I already had the power armor training. So I figured it was worth a mention if you didn't know that. With 4 out of the 5 DLCs being insanely quality and the fact that I really never skip them when I play through this game, I would say it's easily the best of the Fallout games in terms of DLC. Pretty much every other Fallout game, I skip some of the DLCs, even New Vegas. Maybe that's a hot take, maybe it's not, but I'll be the first to admit that New Vegas does have fire DLC, and many people would say that it's better than Fallout 3, but I just don't feel the same way. To me, it felt all kind of samey, taking place in desert-type environments, while Fallout 3 Each location in the DLC felt very unique and distinct, if that makes sense. Fallout 3 is one of those games that leaves you wishing the games industry would go back to their old ways. We genuinely don't get games like this anymore outside of a few breakout hits, none of which, by the way, are made by Bethesda. This is truly one of the greatest ARPGs ever made, and it easily sits in my top 5 games of all time. I don't know what happened to BGS post Skyrim, but they totally lost the plot. This game has amazing writing, amazing DLC, amazing open world design, and amazing side content. The FPS gameplay is really the only weak point in this entire package, but that's even easy to overlook because this game is not a first-person shooter. It would be like rating a COD campaign low because it didn't have Red Dead Redemption 2 levels of storytelling. If I had to give this game a number score, I'd go with a solid 9 out of 10. If you played Fallout 4 or 76 but never played this one, definitely give it a go as it's leagues better than both of those games in pretty much every category other than FPS gameplay. If you haven't played any Fallout game, I would say this is probably the best one to start with. If you enjoy this game, as soon as you're done with it, drop everything that you're doing and go pick up New Vegas as well, because in my opinion, it's a more refined, lore-accurate version of this game. I genuinely couldn't recommend it enough, and I definitely think you should go check it out. What about you guys though? Have you ever played Fallout 3? If so, how do you feel about it? What's your favorite DLC? Better yet, what's your favorite RPG? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, hit that like button as it greatly helps the channel out a ton. And if you're into weekly lore videos and occasional reviews of various RPGs, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. I post every Friday and I'd love to have you guys here. As always, it's Chris from Breezy's Gaming Corner signing out. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.